Last weekend I got a hug from Joan Baez. I want to tell you that story. Deb and I decided that we were going to attend the Bernie Sanders AOC rally in Grand Park, right in downtown LA last weekend. And we decided we would go down the day before so we didn't have to fight traffic, we didn't have to worry about parking. We're going to stay in the DoubleTree in downtown LA. Deb and I love running around downtown. It kind of has a fond place in our relationship genesis, I guess, the origin of it. Deb and I have known each other since she was 8 years old and I was 10. Her older brother was my best friend in 4th grade. She was the little sister. At that time, when you're 10 and 8, it's like a 20% difference. It seemed like she was, a little kid. We fell out of touch after they moved out of the area, a few years after that, and we're out of touch for really 30 years, and then reconnected when everybody was connecting on Facebook. I connected with her brother. She saw, somehow we ended up connecting. We started chatting way back in 2011. Just every once in a while, we just talk on the phone. Never really got together. And then in 2016, she reached out to me because she wanted to do a photo excursion in downtown LA. I was living in downtown because my youngest was attending a performing arts high school right in the heart of downtown LA. And so she asked if I'd run around downtown and show her some of the sights, because she saw pictures from like the Art District and Little Tokyo and Spring Street and just a lot of fashion district, a lot of fun places to visit in the downtown area. So I took her downtown, and our first excursion, we were actually at Grand Park, right in front of City Hall, where the rally would be held this last weekend. And this is beginning of 2016. I think we still have pictures from that excursion. We ran through Little Tokyo and Alvaro Street and Union Station. I took her on the subway. So we had a great time, and we continue going down there. So every time we go down there, it's a little bit of a homecoming. So we decided we'd stay at the DoubleTree Hotel, which is fun because it's got a little Japanese garden you can hang out in, and some waterfalls and things like that. So I'll share some pictures. But we decided we'd go down the day before, so we did, and we got settled, took a little nap. Then we decided we'd go find something to eat, and we walked over to Alvaro Street because I wanted to go to a place called La Noche Buena and get a hard shell taco. And that's kind of nostalgic for me because when my daughter was attending that performing arts high school, I would work at her school in a place called the Parent Center, and I could go upstairs, get online, and I could work for clients right from the school. And at lunch, I would sometimes run down to Alvaro Street and go to La Noche Buena and grab some hard shell tacos and a Mexican Coke. So it was like I say, nostalgic. Unfortunately, we got to Alvaro Street and it was closed, and so we decided we'd go to the Last Bookstore. And if you're ever in LA, you have to visit the Last Bookstore. It's this really cool 2-story bookstore. It's got some artisan shops upstairs and big place upstairs called the Labyrinth, which just a maze of books, some used, some new, organized by category, but also in some places just by color. And then there's a whole vault of horror books, and just really cool spot to be. So we decided we were going to walk over there. And as we were walking over there, we kind of meandered from, if you're familiar with LA or if you look at a map, we're kind of near Main Street, coming back the other direction, and we turned up by City Hall. And as we were heading next to City Hall, I could hear music coming from Grand Park, and we could hear a beautiful singer and beautiful vocalist. The voice was just beautiful. And in any case, Deb said, I think that's Maggie Rogers. And Maggie Rogers was one of the performers that was slated to perform at the rally on Saturday. So this is Friday night. And so we said, well, let's go over there and see what's going on. And sure enough, Maggie Rogers was on stage rehearsing. And there was nobody around except for crew. They were setting things up and checking the sound system, all that fun stuff. So Deb went over there to get a few pictures. There were a couple other women that were watching Maggie and kind of rocking out to her. And then I realized when I looked at one of them, I said, I think that's Joan Baez. And I know Joan Baez was slated to perform there as well. So I turned to Deb and I said, I think that's Joan Baez. And she said, I know, I want to get a picture, but I don't want to act weird. So first I was like, okay, I just let her be here, leave her in peace. I don't want to be a fanboy or whatever, but I have a pretty strong history with folk music. I'll explain that in a second. And so anyways, what ended up happening was I decided that I would just thank her for her music and her activism. She's been an activist since she was in high school. And I turned to her and I said, Miss Baez, thank you for your, I was going to say, thank you for your music and your activism. And instead I said, hi, Miss Baez, thank you for your music. And I broke down weeping. Now, this is not that uncharacteristic of me. I tend to be the weepy person of our relationship, and you know, my kids know this. Everybody that knows me knows this. You know, I'll cry over every commercial that's sentimental. You know, just really easy to get me going. But what was cool about it is I, you know, didn't want to make Joan Baez uncomfortable, but I don't know how she felt about it. But she did lean over and she just gave me a hug, which was super sweet of her. And I kind of backed away. I was like, oh my God, what a disaster. Deb ended up getting a picture of it. She was shocked. She just didn't expect that to occur. So the picture, you can't really see Joan's face, you just see me. She got a picture of Joan later just watching Maggie perform. Either way, it was really, you know, kind of cool. And then some of the people that were working at the event said, hey, we really need you not here in the center area, if you could go off to the side. And so we went over and sat on a bench and got to listen to Maggie and Joan work on a couple songs. They were singing America the Beautiful, Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, another song by Joan Baez. In any case, it was pretty cool. We got to sit there and rehearse through a few things. I'll show a couple clips of that right now, actually. And so I want to give a little backdrop as to why this was important to me for a couple different reasons. The first is that I've told my story before, but I started playing guitar because I was watching my father, who was a banjo player, listen to folk music, and he was recording Bob Dylan's Blowing in the Wind, and I was probably 10 at the time. So he was recording Blowing in the Wind. I wish I had that cassette. I wish I knew what I knew now, where we had made a copy of that cassette, put it in a safety deposit box so that we could digitize it, because it would be wonderful to have that today. Fortunately, I have no idea what happened to it. I'm sure I wore it out, got stuck. You know how they get stuck in the tape recorder and all that fun stuff. So, needless to say, it was instrumental to me, because the first songs I ever learned to play were out of a Pete Seeger How to Play the 5-String Banjo book. It's called the Red Book. And I learned the Crawdad song, This Land Is Your Land, Skipped My Lou, you know, other songs like that. Those were songs that my dad was playing. And so folk music was a big part of our household at that time. Joan Baez is obviously a hero just in the folk music, let alone the activism side. And there's other reasons it was important. So the rally was amazing. We saw Neil Young perform and got to see a number of speakers that were super motivational in a packed out Grand Park. They anticipated like 36,000 people. They think it hit around 45,000 people. There were a lot of people. It was crowded. But it was important for another reason. I was contemplating running into Joan Baez, and after the event, I've been pretty quiet about where I sit politically. People know if they've seen me online, but over the last couple of years, I just began writing about it less and less. And I just, you know, for lack of a better term, I was just discouraged watching people who I think are otherwise reasonable, good people, use flawed epistemology to arrive at conclusions. And I'm not saying you have to agree with me, that politically or otherwise. I love having conversation. I always say that I don't care what you think. I am interested in why you think it. What I really got to thinking about was that Joan Baez has been an activist since she was in high school. And she's now hitting 80 and is still an activist. She's still fighting the fight. And it made me realize that I have no excuse not to continue fighting, not continue to be an advocate for the things I believe. Want to let you know about getting hugged by Joan Baez, how that occurred, and some of the background on that. I wrote about it on my Substack in more of a ludicrous, absurdist way, but you can find out a little bit more about me if you read that, some of the things that I care about. It's in the link in the video, so you can check that out. I also have a link to Joan Baez's website, her Wikipedia page. If you were unfamiliar with her, you can at least find out a little bit more about her. Hope you found this interesting. If you did, let me know. If you didn't, let me know. Whatever, it's all good. Of course, like the video, subscribe if you can, and I'll be back at you soon. Thanks.